Mexico has made a bold move against the United States, a move so unexpected that even Canada is left speechless. What did Mexico do? And how will this reshape the dynamics of North America? Trade tensions between the United States and Mexico have hit a breaking point, sending shockwaves through the North American economy. Mexico has threatened to cut off crucial oil, energy supplies, and key automotive parts, which could spark an unexpected tariff war. The once stable production chain built on Mexico's low-cost labor and the US's vast consumer market are now on shaky ground. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo has made it clear that if the Trump administration follows through on its tariff threats, she has a backup plan ready. If Trump pushes ahead, could Mexico's Plan B shake the foundation of the US-Mexico-Canada agreement? Or will both sides step back to avoid a damaging standoff? In a recent press conference, President Sheinbaum hinted at a diplomatic solution, but warned that Mexico has countermeasures ready. Meanwhile, American manufacturers worry about rising costs and potential shortages if Mexico follows through. Could these escalating threats disrupt critical supply chains, from automotive parts to energy security, forcing both nations to make tough compromises? We'll take a closer look at the risks and rivalries shaping this high-stakes trade dispute and just how close North America might be to its most significant economic showdown yet, with Canada and China also in the mix, with Mexico recently taking retaliatory steps against the United States and signaling that it's just waiting for the right moment. The North American Free Trade Network could be in for a major shakeup. Mexico has hinted that if US tariffs continue, it may respond with its own, alongside Canada, for several reasons. The most drastic measures could include cutting oil and natural gas flows to the US and imposing extra taxes on automotive parts shipped across the border. What started as Trump tariffs now appears to be on the verge of escalating into a full-scale trade war. One of Mexico's strongest bargaining chips against the US is its control over energy resources and automotive supply chains. US refineries rely heavily on Mexican crude oil, and the pipelines along the US-Mexico border play a crucial role in the energy trade between the two nations. In the automotive sector, American, Japanese, and European carmakers have deeply integrated operations across the border, benefiting from Mexico's lower labor costs and tax advantages. Every day, hundreds of trucks transport auto parts between the two countries. If the Mexican government retaliates against Trump's tariffs by cutting off parts, fuel, and other essential products to the US, American manufacturers could take the biggest hit. Mexico has long been a crucial hub for the US manufacturing sector, with many American companies relying on its cheaper labor to keep production costs down. However, tariffs have already driven up expenses, and the threat of energy and parts cuts or additional tariffs from Mexico could make things even worse. On the morning of March 4th, President Claudia Sheinbaum addressed the situation in her daily press conference. She acknowledged the newly imposed US tariffs, but deliberately chose not to implement immediate countermeasures. This measured response suggests a clear strategy. Sheinbaum understands that launching a trade war right away would only escalate tensions, so she aims to exhaust all diplomatic options first. Sheinbaum also stressed that Mexico has honored its commitments under the previous 30-day agreement. She announced that she will personally speak with President Trump on Thursday, March 6th, to discuss the tariffs directly. While senior officials from both countries have been in talks for the past month, Sheinbaum made it clear that a formal resolution requires direct negotiations between the two leaders. Though the call doesn't guarantee the tariffs will be lifted, it presents a key opportunity to de-escalate the situation. If both leaders can agree on concrete, measurable terms, they might find a path forward that prevents further economic damage while addressing issues like migration and fentanyl trafficking. However, Sheinbaum also made it clear that if the US refuses to withdraw the tariffs, Mexico will announce its countermeasures at a public event in El Zocalo on Sunday, March 9th. She assured the public that Mexico has a contingency plan in place and is prepared to act if necessary. When asked about negotiations regarding the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, Scheinbaum confirmed that discussions are ongoing, signaling that despite the tensions, Mexico remains committed to maintaining trade relations. This latest dispute is just one part of a broader history of friction between Mexico and the Trump administration, including past clashes over migration policies and border security. But now, trade has become the focal point, especially after Trump warned, if Mexico doesn't give us favorable terms, I will impose a 25% tariff. Mexico has called the tariffs unacceptable economic blackmail, arguing that they are costing the country billions of dollars. While it's true that Mexico relies heavily on the U.S. market, officials point out that the U.S. also depends on Mexico's low-cost production. Some sources suggest that if Trump refuses to back down, the Mexican Ministry of Commerce is considering blacklisting certain American companies and imposing additional taxes. Leaked information indicates that Mexico may specifically target American agricultural products and critical parts used in the assembly industry. Additionally, Mexico's energy trade, especially through state-owned companies like Pemex, plays a vital role in supplying U.S. refineries. Mexican officials are keeping the option open to either cut off oil and gas shipments or raise prices through taxation, which could send shockwaves through the American fuel market and drive up inflation. From a political standpoint, Mexican President López Obrador is gaining popularity at home by standing firm against Trump, rallying nationalist sentiment with the message that Mexico will not be crushed. On the other side, Trump is using the dispute to strengthen his voter base, pushing the narrative that Mexico has been taking advantage of us, failed to secure our borders, and increased our trade deficit. With both leaders playing to their domestic audiences, neither side appears eager to back down. However, economists warn that this standoff is not a win-win, but a lose-lose situation. Mexico's retaliation could hurt its own workers as much as American manufacturers. If trade barriers cause automotive and electronics plants to shut down, both economies would take a hit. Cutting off oil and gas exports would also reduce Mexico's own revenues, though officials insist they are willing to take short-term losses to stand their ground. Looking ahead, sources suggest Mexico is also exploring the idea of coordinating its retaliation with Canada, China, and other U.S. rivals. China, for instance, has already announced a 15% tariff on U.S. products starting March 10th. Meanwhile, Canada has hinted at imposing taxes on American brands like Tesla and restricting U.S. imports. If Mexico joins forces with these countries, the Trump administration could find itself under pressure from all sides. The American manufacturing, agriculture, technology, and energy sectors could all feel the strain of increased taxes and trade restrictions. If Mexico moves forward with cutting oil shipments or raising prices, U.S. refineries, especially in Texas, would have to scramble for alternatives. While the U.S. has its own shale oil production, Mexican crude is crucial for certain refining operations. A supply shortage could send fuel prices soaring, triggering inflation and adding to Trump's political risks ahead of the election. Even if Trump maintains his America First rhetoric, arguing that tariffs protect U.S. interests, he risks backlash from farmers, manufacturers, and middle-class consumers who could see rising costs. Meanwhile, López Obrador could capitalize on the situation by pointing out that those threatening Mexico are actually hurting their own voters. Of course, Mexico's leverage is not unlimited. Its economy remains deeply tied to the U.S., and most of its exports rely on the American market. Some might see this retaliation as a risky move, even self-destructive. However, it could also serve as a high-stakes poker strategy, forcing Trump to reconsider and possibly make concessions. Mexico is making its boldest move yet, declaring that it has a Plan B ready if U.S. tariffs go up, and that it's fully prepared to retaliate. But can a diplomatic agreement be reached before the situation escalates further? According to experts, both sides may ultimately back down, realizing that the economic risks are too great. Trump could opt for a more targeted approach, limiting tariffs on certain Mexican goods or granting exemptions for key automotive parts. Meanwhile, Mexico might look to ease tensions by reassuring the US that it won't cut oil production. In the end, trade wars and politics are unpredictable, and the balance of power can shift at any moment. Right now, Mexico has gone all in, making it clear that if Trump follows through on his threats, it will use its economic leverage in response. US trade officials are taking this seriously. Mexico isn't just another trading partner. It's an essential part of American production chains. However, Trump's stance remains firm. Nobody negotiates with us like that. With both sides digging in their heels, this is quickly turning into a high-stakes standoff. As with any trade war, there are no real winners, only economic casualties. But political leaders sometimes gamble with these conflicts to strengthen their domestic standing. Mexico is betting that its oil and automotive industries give it enough leverage to force the US to reconsider.